Hello, you're watching Movie Snapshot Scenes, and this is the summary of Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Earth was dying. The once fertile lands had turned to dust, and massive sandstorms swept across the fields, choking everything in their path. Crops were failing, and humanity was struggling to survive. In a small farmhouse in the American Midwest, former NASA pilot Cooper lived with his two children, Tom and Murphy, and his father-in-law, Donald. Cooper was a man out of place in this new world, a world where science and exploration had been abandoned in favor of survival. But his young daughter, Murphy, was different. She was brilliant, curious, and full of wonder. Murphy had a secret. She believed their house was haunted. Strange patterns of dust would form in her bedroom, lines and symbols she couldn't explain. She called it the ghost, but Cooper, ever the scientist, dismissed it as nonsense. One day, after a massive dust storm, Cooper noticed something strange. The dust had settled in perfect lines on Murphy's bedroom floor. It wasn't random. It was a pattern, binary code, a set of coordinates. Following the coordinates, Cooper and Murphy drove deep into a restricted area and stumbled upon something incredible. NASA still existed, hidden from the public. Professor Brand, a brilliant scientist, revealed the truth. Earth was beyond saving. Humanity needed a new home, and there was a plan. Years ago, a mysterious wormhole had appeared near Saturn, leading to another galaxy. A group of explorers had already gone through searching for habitable planets. Now, NASA needed the best pilot they had left. They needed Cooper. It was an impossible choice: stay and watch his children slowly die on a dying planet, or leave them behind to try and save humanity. Murphy was devastated. She begged him not to go, convinced that the ghost was sending them a message. But there was no time. The mission was urgent. As Cooper said his final goodbye, Murphy refused to look at him. Through tears, she whispered, "You said you'd come back." Cooper placed his hand on the doorframe, hesitated for a moment, and then walked away. And just like that, he left the Earth behind, chasing a future beyond the stars. The launch was a thunderous roar against the silence of space. Cooper, along with his crew, Brand, Doyle, and Romilly, sat strapped into Endurance, their spacecraft, as it pierced through Earth's atmosphere. Below them, the blue planet grew, smaller and smaller until it was just a memory. There was no turning back now. Their destination, Saturn. More specifically, the wormhole orbiting it, a gateway to another galaxy, to new worlds that could save humanity. It would take 2 years. To reach it, 2 years drifting through the cold emptiness of space. Time stretched differently here, the weight of their mission pressing down on them in ways gravity never could. Back on Earth, Murphy refused to let go of her father's promise. She buried herself in her books, in equations, in the coded messages the ghost had left behind. She believed there was something more to them, something important. Meanwhile, Endurance finally reached Saturn. The crew gazed in awe at the massive, swirling gas giant, its rings stretching endlessly into the void. But their real focus was the wormhole. It hovered like a perfect sphere, distorting light around it, a tear in the fabric of space and time. As they approached, Brand reached out, mesmerized by the shifting patterns of light. The wormhole wasn't just a passage, it was something alive, something unknown. Then, the ship plunged forward. Time twisted, space folded. The laws of physics bent in ways none of them could understand. For a moment, Cooper caught a glimpse of something reaching back at them, as if the universe itself was watching. And then, silence. They had arrived. Beyond the wormhole, a new galaxy stretched before them, dotted with 3 potential worlds, each one a possible salvation for humankind. Their mission was clear: investigate, survive, and find a home. But space was unforgiving, and time here was a currency more valuable than gold. Their first destination, Miller's planet, a world covered in water, orbiting dangerously close to a massive black hole. They had no idea what awaited them. But one thing was certain. Every decision they made from this point on would determine the fate of humanity. The crew of Endurance prepared for descent. Their first destination, Miller's planet, was covered in endless shallow waters. But there was a catch. Its orbit around the massive black hole, Gargantua, meant that time moved differently here. Every hour on the surface would equal 7 years back on Earth. Cooper's heart tightened at the thought. 7 years. He had already left his children behind. How much more time would he lose? But they had no choice. Miller's beacon was still transmitting, a sign of possible survival. They had to go. As Ranger 1 descended, the planet came into view. A vast, endless ocean stretched in all directions. No land, no structures, just water and a dull, grey sky. They landed in the shallow waves, stepping onto a world where the horizon never changed. Bran checked the beacon. Miller's ship was here, but there was no sign of life. Then, Doyle saw something in the distance. A mountain. But Cooper's instincts screamed otherwise. That wasn't a mountain. It was a wave, a wall of water miles high rushing toward them with unstoppable force. "Back to the ship, now!" Cooper shouted. Panic erupted. Bran struggled, determined to retrieve data from Miller's ship. But time was running out. The wave loomed above them, roaring like a god of destruction. Cooper and Doyle fought their way back to the Ranger, but Brand was too slow. The wave crashed down, swallowing her whole. For a moment, she vanished beneath the water. Then, miraculously, she surfaced, gasping for air. Cooper grabbed her, dragging her to safety just as the ship sealed shut. But Doyle wasn't so lucky. The wave had taken him. He was gone. Then came the worst part. The ship's engines were flooded. They couldn't leave. They waited, helpless, as another monstrous wave built on the horizon. Finally, the engines roared to life. The Ranger shot into the sky, escaping the planet's deadly waters. But as they re-entered Endurance, the reality hit them. They had been on Miller's planet for mere minutes. But when they looked at Romilly, waiting for them aboard the ship, they saw the truth written in his face. He had aged 23 years. Time had stolen nearly a quarter of a century in the blink of an eye. And Earth, Murphy, everything Cooper had left behind, was slipping further and further away. The silence on Endurance was suffocating. Romilly, now older, with streaks of grey in his beard, stared at them with a mix of relief and sorrow. 23 years. That's how long he had waited. Alone. Cooper felt his stomach turn. Every second, lost on Miller's planet, had been a death sentence for time itself. He rushed to the ship's communication logs, his hands shaking as he accessed the backlog of messages from Earth. A flood of voices filled the room. Tom appeared first, now a grown man. His face was tired, lined with the weight of years. He spoke of life, of marriage, of a child Cooper had never met. He spoke of struggles, of dust storms worsening, of crops failing faster than ever. But as the years passed, his messages became colder, more distant. And then, Murphy. At first, she was nowhere to be seen, but after a few more messages, her face finally appeared. No longer the little girl who clung to her father's promise, but a woman now, hardened, angry, broken. "You said you'd come back," she whispered. "It's today, the day you left, and you're not here." Cooper's heart shattered. He had promised, and he had failed. The screen went dark. No more messages came. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of time, of loss, pressed down on them all. But there was no time to grieve. They had to move forward. 2 planets remained, Mann's and Edmund's. Dr. Mann, the leader of the original expedition, had sent promising data. His planet, covered in ice, could be humanity's salvation. Brand wanted to go to Edmund's planet instead. His data was better, his research more promising, but she hesitated. It wasn't just science, it was love. Edmunds was the man she had once loved. Cooper made the call. Mann's planet. Romilly prepared the ship, while Brand seethed in frustration. But Cooper had lost too much time already. There was no room for emotions. No room for anything but survival. As Endurance adjusted its course, the ship turned toward the frozen wasteland of Mann's planet. None of them knew what awaited them. But Cooper felt it in his gut. Something was wrong. And soon they would learn the terrible truth. Mann's planet was a frozen nightmare. As Endurance descended, endless glaciers stretched beneath them, jagged and lifeless. The sky was a pale, ghostly white, and beneath the thick ice, nothing but darkness. There were no signs of life, no warmth, no hope. But Dr. Mann was alive. The crew found his station buried in the ice, a lone structure standing against the brutal cold. When they entered, they found him, weak, trembling, eyes filled with relief. He fell into their arms, sobbing. "I thought I'd die here," he whispered. He told them his planet was the key, a new home. The data proved it. The air was thin but breathable. The ice, deep below, could hide an ocean, a future for humanity. Cooper wanted to believe him. Murphy's last message still echoed in his mind. She had continued Brand's work on Earth, working alongside her father's old mentor, Professor Brand. She had discovered something horrifying. Plan A was a lie. There was never a way to save the people of Earth. Professor Brand had known it from the start. The equation to solve gravity, the key to lifting massive ships off the dying planet. It was impossible. The real plan had always been Plan B, sending embryos to another world, abandoning those left behind. Cooper was furious. He had left his children, believing he could save them. But he had been chasing a lie. And now, standing on this frozen wasteland, he realized something else. Dr. Mann was lying too. The planet wasn't safe. The air wasn't breathable. The data had been faked. Mann had known his world was uninhabitable, but he couldn't accept dying alone. So, he had sent false signals, luring them to save him. And now that they were here, he would do anything to survive. Cooper barely had time to react before Mann struck. The scientist attacked, desperate, wild. He cracked Cooper's helmet, sending him gasping for air, fighting against the thin, frozen atmosphere. Cooper clawed at the ice, choking. Mann left him to die. He took a shuttle, heading back to Endurance, planning to leave the planet behind. But in his panic, in his desperation, he ignored the docking procedures. As Endurance loomed before him, he tried to override the airlock. Cooper, struggling to regain control, screamed over the radio, "Mann, don't open that hatch!" Mann didn't listen. The airlock exploded. A shockwave ripped through space. Mann was gone. Endurance spun wildly, out of control, and Cooper had seconds to save them all. The explosion sent Endurance into a deadly spin. It twisted violently, tumbling through space, completely out of control. Debris scattered, alarms blared, and time seemed to stretch as Cooper and Brand watched their last hope spiral toward destruction. But Cooper wasn't ready to give up. Gripping the controls of the Ranger, he made a desperate decision. He was going to dock manually. No autopilot, no second chances, just instinct, precision, and the desperate hope that he could match the spin before it was too late. Brand's voice shook. "It's impossible." Cooper's hands were steady. "No, it's necessary." He pushed the thrusters, aligning the Ranger with Endurance. The two ships spun together, faster and faster. His fingers worked the controls like a symphony, adjusting, countering, dancing with the chaos. Then, connection. The docking clamps locked. The spin stabilized. Against all odds, Cooper had done the impossible, but they were out of time. Fuel was running low. Earth was too far. The only way forward was Gargantua, the massive black hole that loomed before them, a swirling abyss of darkness and time itself. A desperate plan formed. If they could use Gargantua's gravity as a slingshot, they could reach Edmund's planet. But there was a cost. They needed to drop mass. Cooper knew what that meant before Brand even looked at him. As Endurance approached the event horizon, he ejected himself and Tars, the AI robot, into the void. Brand screamed in protest, but there was no turning back. Cooper was falling. And then, silence. No stars. No light. Just the crushing, infinite blackness of the unknown. But he didn't die. He fell into something different. The tesseract. A construct beyond time, beyond space, made of infinite rooms. Murphy's room. He was inside the very fabric of time itself, looking into the past, watching Murphy as a child. The ghost she had always spoken of was him. Cooper screamed, pounding against the walls of reality. Time was a river, flowing in all directions. He had one last chance. Using gravity, he sent a message, a pattern in the dust, a watch ticking in Morse code. Murphy, now grown, saw it, understood it. The equation that had eluded Professor Brand, the solution to gravity, was right in front of her. She would save Earth. His mission was over. The tesseract collapsed, spitting Cooper out near Saturn, where he was found, alive. Years had passed. Murphy was an old woman now, humanity's savior. She looked at her father one last time. No parent should have to watch their child die, she whispered. Cooper held her hand. Then he let her go. A new journey awaited. The stars were calling. Once more,